In the late 1800s to early 1900s, Theodore Roosevelt recognized that the wildlife population would not be able to withstand the extensive amounts of hunting that was going on at the time, and he knew that he needed to implement something that would keep wildlife alive for the generations to come. Throughout Roosevelt's implementation of national forests, bird reserves, national parks, national monuments, national game reserves, and reclamation projects led to approximately 230 million acres of land that were protected by the government. This land would lead to the repopulation of animals that there are today. From the year 1901 to 1909, Roosevelt signed legislation that established 5 new national parks. Roosevelt even established the Antiquities Act, which allowed Roosevelt and presidents after him to proclaim ownership as national monuments. Roosevelt was responsible for establishing Devil's Tower in Wyoming, El Morro in New Mexico, Montezuma Castle in Arizona, and the Petrified Forest in Arizona. Teddy Roosevelt once said, "In the Grand Canyon, Arizona has a natural wonder which is in kind absolutely unparalleled through the rest of the world. I want to ask you to keep this great wonder of nature as it is now. I hope you will not have a building of any kind, not a summer cottage, a hotel, or anything else, to mar the wonderful grandeur, the sublimity, the great loneliness, and beauty of the canyon. Leave it as it is. You cannot not improve on it. The ages have been at work on it, and man can only mar it." Roosevelt was also responsible for the establishment of the Boone and Crockett Club, which, as its mission statement says, it is the mission of the Boone and Crockett Club to promote the conservation and management of wildlife, especially big game, and its habitat, to preserve and encourage hunting, and to maintain the highest ethical standards of fair chase and sportsmanship in North America. Roosevelt recognized that the nation's large game was being overhunted, and that something needed to be done in order to maintain wildlife populations. Throughout Roosevelt's childhood, to his presidency, to his afterlife, he had made many contributions to wildlife.
My fascination with Theodore Roosevelt happened after a fishing trip in Brazil in the Amazon River. One of my guides recommended that I read the book River of Doubt, which is about Theodore Roosevelt charting uncharted river in the Amazon. And through reading that book, I recognized his immense contribution to conservation. In particularly in the late 1800s, Theodore Roosevelt recognized the wanton waste caused by mining, lumber companies, as well as hunting to the natural species of North America, which was really going to look like it was resulting in mass extinction, like the bison. And so he really had a giant impact on conservation. He formed the Boone and Crockett Club, which I guess my original thoughts was that was just an organization of hunters, but it really was the leading conservationists, scientists, politicians, and intellectuals of their day that focused on preserving natural resources and wildlife in North America. Theodore Roosevelt was responsible for forming the United States National Forest Service, which contributed to 5 national forests, 18 national monuments, and 51 bird sanctuaries. He also, and combined all of these resources contributed to 230 million acres of federal lands protected by the federal government. And so a lot of the hunting and fishing and just the majestic parks throughout most of the West are there, and for really our enjoyment and really ultimately for conservation, that the dedicated work by Theodore Roosevelt. So very impressive man to study and read about.